Murdered, buried, and then moved again. That is what happened to one of the 10 stars in this video, 2 decades after his funeral. Another has no grave at all. A third rests beneath a name that is not the one the world knew him by. These are the graves of 10 Hollywood stars who were murdered.
Number 10 * Sal Mineo, buried at Gate of Heaven Cemetery in Hawthorne, New York, about 3,000 miles from the city where he died. His footstone sits in the family plot, close to a large mausoleum in a Catholic cemetery in Westchester County that most Hollywood visitors will never see. He was 37. He had been nominated for an Academy Award at 17 for playing Plato in Rebel Without a Cause opposite James Dean, and nominated again for Exodus, which also won him a Golden Globe. He was in Giant, The Longest Day, and Escape from the Planet of the Apes on the night of February 12, 1976. Mineo was returning to his West Hollywood apartment after a rehearsal for a play he hoped would restart his career. He was attacked in the carport below the building. Neighbors heard him call out. He died at the scene. 3 years passed before anyone was charged. In March 1979, a man named Lionel Ray Williams was convicted of the killing along with a string of robberies and sentenced to 51 years. Investigators concluded it had been a random robbery attempt. His funeral was held 5 days after his death at a church in Mamaroneck, New York. 250 people came. He had spent almost his entire adult life in California, and his family took him back east to the state he was born in. He has been there ever since. The man convicted of killing him served 12 years and was released in 1990. He has denied responsibility ever since, and a documentary released in 2024 argued for his exoneration without success. Number 09 William Desmond Taylor William lies in the Cathedral Mausoleum at Hollywood for a cemetery, and his crypt does not carry the name he was famous under. The inscription remembers William C. Dean Tanner, beloved father of Ethel Dean Tanner. That was his real name, and almost nobody who walks that corridor recognizes it. Taylor was one of the biggest directors in early Hollywood. He made 15 insolent films between 1914 and 1922 and acted in 27 more. He was a founding figure in the Directors Guild and one of the most respected men in the industry. On the morning of February 2, 1922, his valet arrived at his bungalow in Thewis Lake District and found him dead. He had been shot. His wallet, his watch and a diamond ring were all still on him, which ruled out the obvious motive immediately. The investigation collapsed almost before it began. Studio executives reached the house before the police did and were seen going through his belongings. Suspicion fell on the actress Mabel Normant, the last person known to have seen him alive. GRVSID murdered gravesand on the young star Mary Miles Minter and her mother. Nobody was ever charged. In 1964, another silent actress made a deathbed confession, and researchers still argue about whether she was telling the truth. His funeral filled a Los Angeles cathedral and crowds pushed against the doorstring to get inside. Rudolph Valentino would be placed in the same building 4 years later, and Valentino is the one people come to see. Taylor is a few corridors away, under a name the public never knew. His last film reached cinemas 4 months after he was buried. In his native county Carlow in Ireland, a society still runs an annual film festival in his name. Number 08 Rebecca Schaeffer. Rebecca Schaeffer is buried at a Hawaii Sholem Cemetery in Portland, Oregon, in the state where she was born and raised. Her stone calls her a beloved daughter and a courageous spirit, and carries a line about believing that love will prevail. More than 200 people came to the service in July 1989. She was 21. She had played Patty Russell on the CBS comedy My Sister Sam for 2 seasons, appeared in Woody Allen's Radio Days, and was preparing for an audition for The Godfather Part 3 on July 18, 1989. A man who had been sending her letters for years came to her apartment door in West Hollywood and shot her. He had obtained her home address from a private investigator who had simply requested it from the California Department of Motor Vehicles. He was prosecuted by Marcia Clark and sentenced to life without parole. What happened next is why her section matters more than most. Within weeks, the state ordered changes to how the DMV released personal records. In 1990, California passed the first anti-stalking law in the United States, and every other state followed. The Los Angeles Police Department created a threat management unit, the first police team in the country dedicated to stalking cases. In 1994, Congress passed the Driver's Privacy Protection Act. Her boyfriend at the time later became a film director and made a picture drawn from what he went through. She is one of the few people on this list whose death changed American law, and she is buried 1,000 miles from the industry that made her known. She was killed on the day she was preparing to audition. Number 7. Haing S. Ngor. Haing S. Ngor is buried at Rose Hills Memorial Park in Whittier, California, one of the largest cemeteries in the world and one where almost no Hollywood tourist ever stops. Find a Grave does not permit photo requests for his memorial. He is one of the most improbable Oscar winners in history. He was a surgeon and obstetrician in Phnom Penh when the Khmer Rouge emptied the city in 1975. He survived years in labor camps by hiding the fact that he was educated. Because education was a death sentence, his wife died in the camp. He escaped to Thailand in 1979 and reached the United States as a refugee. He had never acted in his life when he was cast in The Killing Fields in 1984. He won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, the first non-professional to win an acting Oscar in 50 years. On February 25, 1996, Ngor was shot outside his apartment building in Chinatown, Los Angeles. He was 55. 3 members of a street gang were convicted 2 years later. The prosecution case was that he handed over his watch but refused to give up a gold locket holding a photograph of his wife, who had died in Cambodia 20 years earlier. Mourners burned incense at the spot and left a photograph of him holding the Oscar. He had told a reporter years before that if he died after making that film, it would be acceptable, because the film would last a century. He survived a genocide and was killed a few miles from the studio that gave him the award. He was the first Buddhist to win an acting Oscar, and he had written a memoir about the camps that he considered more important than any film role. Number 06. Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro lies under a flat gray marker at Calvary Cemetery in East Los Angeles. And like Taylor, the name on the stone is not quite the name on the film posters. It reads Ramon Samaniego Novarro. Samaniego was the family name he was born with in Durango, Mexico. A director renamed him for the screen, and both names went onto the stone together. He was one of the biggest stars of the silent era. He played the title role in Ben-Hur in 1925, one of the highest-grossing films of the entire silent period, and starred in Prisoner of Zenda and Scaramouche. He was marketed as a rival to Valentino, and he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. By 1968 he was 69 and long retired, living quietly in North Hollywood. On October 30 of that year, 2 brothers came to his house believing he kept large amounts of cash hidden there. He did not. He was killed during the robbery. Both men were convicted in 1970. The case became the subject of a short story by Charles Bukowski and a song recorded by Peggy Lee. What it did not become was a reason for anyone to visit them. Calvary is a working Catholic cemetery in East Los Angeles, not a tourist destination, and Novarro is one of the few genuine Hollywood legends in it. On that Day of the Dead, families light candles a few rows from a man who once filled cinemas across the world. He had been retired for years by then, and most of his silent films were already lost. Ben-Hur survives, which is the reason his name didn't vanish entirely. Number 05. Dominique Dunne. Dominique Dunne is buried at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, in the third row of the center lawn, almost directly across from the chapel entrance. It is a small cemetery hidden behind office towers, and it holds Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, and Truman Capote. Dunne is a short walk from all of them. She was 22. She had played Dana Freeling, the eldest daughter, in Poltergeist, released the same year. She came from a Hollywood family. Her father was the writer Dominique Dunne, her brother is the actor and director Griffin Dunne, and Joan Didion was her aunt by marriage. On October 30, 1982, she was rehearsing a scene at her home with another actor when her former boyfriend arrived and attacked her in the driveway. She never gained consciousness and died 5 days later. Her father sat through the trial and watched the man responsible convicted of voluntary manslaughter rather than murder. He served roughly 3.5 years. Dominique Dunne walked out of that courtroom and became one of the most relentless crime writers in America, covering trial after trial for Vanity Fair for the next quarter century. He said the courtroom made him a writer. There is one more detail at Westwood. Heather O'Rourke, the little girl who spoke Keith's most famous line in Poltergeist, died in 1988 at the age of 12 and was buried in the same cemetery. 2 actresses from the same film, 6 years apart, in the same few acres of grass. Visitors who come for Marilyn Monroe walk past both of them without knowing it. Poltergeist was the only feature film Dominique Dunne ever completed. Number 4. Carl Switzer. Carl Switzer is buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery in the Garden of Memory, under a marker that carries his name. Two Masonic symbols, a line calling him a beloved father, son and brother, and an etching of a dog. Visitors have been arguing about that dog for 60 years. It is a hunting hound, because he bred and trained them. But every so often somebody draws a ring around its eye so that it looks like Pete, the dog from the films. Everyone watching this knows him as Alfalfa. He appeared in the Argan comedies from 1935 to 1940, with the colic and the off-key singing voice, and by the age of 10 he was one of the most recognizable children in America. When these shorts were repackaged for television as The Little Rascals, a whole second generation grew up on him. He never received a cent from it. By his 30s the work had dried up. He tended bar, bred dogs and guided hunting trips. On January 21, 1959, he went to a house in Mission Hills to argue about a $50 payment connected to a lost hunting dog. He was shot during that argument and died on the way to hospital. He was 31. The shooting was ruled self-defense and no charges followed, although an eyewitness account contradicted shooter's version. Cecil B. DeMille died the same day. Switzer had appeared in DeMille's final film. The newspapers gave DeMille the front pages, and Alfalfa's death was reduced to a paragraph. His father is buried beside him. His older brother Harold, who also appeared in the series, is in the same cemetery and died 8 years later. Number 3. Marvin Gaye has no grave. There is no headstone anywhere, no plot to visit and no marker with his name on it. A space had been arranged for him at Forest Lawn in Hollywood Hills, but he was never placed in it. He was cremated after the funeral and his ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean. Find a grave lists him. A scattered at sea and does not permit photo requests. He was one of the defining voices of American music. What's going on? Let's get eaten. I heard it through the grapevine. Sexual healing. He had sung the national anthem at the NBA All-Star Game in 1983 and turned it into a performance people still talk about. On April 1, 1984, one day before his 45th birthday, Gaye was shot and killed by his father at the family home in Los Angeles. He had stepped in during an argument between his parents. He was pronounced dead at hospital. The house was sold not long afterwards and later demolished. His father was initially charged with murder. He ultimately pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and received a suspended sentence and probation. Headed in a nursing home in 1998. The absence of a grave is not an accident of circumstance. A plot existed. A decision was made not to use it. Millions of people have gone looking for somewhere to stand and there has never been anywhere to go. For a man whose last great records were about wanting peace, the family chose water over stone. His father was the one person who could have made a different decision, and he outlived his son by 14 years. Number 2. Bob Crane. Bob Crane is buried at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park, Arobalo, Natalie Wood, under a black and white stone carrying photographs of Hyman, his second wife, and the words Hogan and Hilda, together forever. That is not where he was buried. He was first laid to rest in 1978 at Oakwood Memorial Park in Chatsworth, out in San Fernando Valley. In 1999, 21 years later, his widow had his remains lifted out of that cemetery and moved to Westwood. For another 4 years after the move there was nothing marking the spot at all. The stone that is there now was only placed in 2003. Everyone watching this knows him as Colonel Hogan. Hogan's Heroes ran for 168 episodes between 1965 and 1971, and he was nominated for 12 Emmy Awards. Before that he was the biggest radio personality in Los Angeles, interviewing Frank Sinatra, Bob Hope and Marilyn Monroe. On June 29, 1978, Crane was found dead in a rented apartment in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he was touring in a stage play. He was 49. The case took 14 years to reach a courtroom. A man was finally charged in 1990 and acquitted in 1994. Nobody has been convicted, and it remains officially unsolved. The play he was touring in was one he had bought the rights to himself. His widow died in 2007 and is buried beside him, and the woman who moved him is known the ground she chose for both of them. Richard Dawson, who played Corporal Newkirk on the same show, was buried at Westwood in 2012, which put one of Hogan's heroes in the same small cemetery. Number 1. Sharon Tate is buried at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California, in Satan's section, in a plot that overlooks Santa Monica Bay. The headstone carries her name and Beneath it, the name of her son, Paul Richard Polanski. She was 8.5 months pregnant when she died, and they were buried together in August 1969. Then the plot kept filling. Her mother Doris was placed there in 1992. Her younger sister Patricia followed in 2000, at 43. One grave, one family, 31 years apart. Tate was 26. She had played Jennifer North in Valley of the Dolls, appeared in The Fearless Vampire Killers and The Wrecking Crew, and had been a regular on The Beverly Hillbillies before that. She was widely expected to become one of the major stars of the 1970s. On the night of August 9, 1969, she and 4 other people were killed at her home in Cielo Drive by followers of Charles Manson. The case ended the open-door culture of 60s Hollywood almost overnight. Her mother did something with that. Doris Tate became one of the most effective victims' rights campaigners in America and helped push through changes to California law giving victims and their families a voice in the courtroom. She is buried in the same plot as the daughter whose case started it. Her grave is one of the most visited at Holy Cross. There are almost always flowers in it, and almost always notes. Her father died in 2006 and was not buried with them. He was cremated and his ashes were given to a family friend, which leaves him the only one of the 4 not in that plot, 10 graves. And in almost every case, the story kept moving after the funeral. A coffin lifted out of one cemetery and carried to another. A plot bought and never used. 2 men lying under names the public never knew. A single family plot that took 31 years to fill. Which of these 10 surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments.